Robin, I would like you to reflect on two aspects of your own life that are very fundamental to your scholarship. One is your Methodism, and one is your engagement with Reinhold Niebuhr's life and thought and work and continuing relevance, both for ethics but for world affairs. You're one of the world's leading experts on Niebuhr. He wrestled with the Cold War, with international relations in that context. Do you think Niebuhr's Christian realist insights about power and the balance of power and the struggle for justice in an imperfect world are relevant to the 21st century?
I think that they are. Now, I think they have to be translated into the 21st century environment. Niebuhr, in a sense, I mean, lived in a time in which this the nation state was at its height. It really was the shaping reality of the international situation. So that one of the things I've tried to say in my own recent writings is we now, without neglecting balance of power between states, have to think about how you balance power not only between the states themselves, but between the state and the corporation, between the state and the world, global religious community of Islam or Christianity or Buddhism, between the state and the cultural realities of family. So there are lessons about balance of power in Christian realism that are just indispensable for the world that we're in today. But it's a different set of balances than Niebuhr himself was looking at.
And for that reason, in your thinking as a contemporary Christian realist thinker on global affairs, international law has a new significance and an importance.
I think that's right. It was a reality that the realist might neglect in Niebuhr's time, because what Niebuhr himself called the structure of nations and empires so shaped the global context that international law rather followed in its wake. And I think if we look at Niebuhr himself, who didn't play the role one might have expected, for example, in the forming of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the realist had his or her attention focused elsewhere in 1948, but 50 years, 60 years on after that, we can see that there was a new reality emerging, and I think that's where the attention needs to be focused today.
How would you respond to your hard-bitten fellow political realist by saying this is all very well, Dr. Lovin, to be looking at a peaceful international order, but international law is too frail an instrument for the realities of power and the conflicts of power and the terrible consequences of the abuse of power in the 21st century?
Well, of course, one could have said that about the rule of law within the national community at one point. There's no doubt, particularly in the American context, that our own society was a more violent place 100 or 150 years ago than it is today. Marty Koskaniemi, who speaks of international law as the gentle civilizer of nations, I think has it right. And now, of course, that civilizing process takes place over a very long period of time, and it doesn't happen without, it doesn't have purely idealistic reasons. It requires some incentives and some coercion, but nonetheless, one sees the international order being transformed in ways that reflect the long-term power of international law to shape the global reality.
second. I have to lift this up a bit. Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Was it said of John Wesley, or did John Wesley say, "The world is my parish"? Methodism is a world movement. Did you get a sense of that in your childhood and youth growing up?
Well, of course, right, everybody knew about the missionaries, and I suppose that's right, that especially for somebody growing up in the middle of the Midwest, where Missouri was a foreign country, having grown up in the middle of Illinois, the church was an important source of contact with a wider world.
Did you grow up with an interest in world affairs, even as a young person?
Yeah, I think though that had a lot to do with my high school education and some really good and inspiring teachers, as well as the church experience.
And your sense of your interest in ethics, I mean, how did that develop, Robin?
That did grow out of a much more, if you will, local reality. I worked in a Presbyterian church in the city of Chicago the summer after Martin Luther King was there doing the open housing marches in, I believe it was 1966. And so I was working in a white community in the places where he had marched and raised these questions about racial justice in a city that was rigidly segregated at that time. And I think it's quite clear to me that my own experience of the transformation that American society was going through in the years, say, from 1964 to 1970, was crucial in shaping my interest in ethics.
The field of Christian ethics has really flourished in recent decades, but you have a very particular voice in wanting Christian ethics to be concerned not only with the ethics of the Christian life in the church as a witness to the world, but to engage in conversations with scientists, people in business, people in law. Theologically, what holds that together for you?
Perhaps it is the kind of Wesleyan notion that, Wesley was a great believer in prevenient grace, that God is at work. God prepares the way for God's own message, and that this is happening precisely in those places where God doesn't seem necessarily to be present, and so I think there's something about that Wesleyan ability to engage with social structures as well as individuals. Wesley was a great evangelist, but he was also building these chapels in the center of British industrial cities and working with education, working with health care, providing a whole set of outreaches into the society. And I think that in a lot of ways, conscious and unconscious, has shaped my sense of what the Christian life is about, so that I don't necessarily look for the church sign on the door when I looking to see where God may be at work in the city or in the world.
Dr. Lovin, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.